we could literally go through the looking glass because that's where you live. And I feel like words don't even do justice to your imprint. But we're going to try to put it into clunky words, okay? So first of all, we'll start with the book for a second. This book, Good Energy. We both love this word, energy. If you had one wish for people when they put that book down, when they finished reading the book, what were you hoping that they would walk away with? Just the complete sense that everything is connected. Oneness. That's what the first part of the book is. The first section of the book is called Everything Is Connected. It's the first words you read when you read the book. And I think it's fundamentally, that's what I want people to, not the end of the journey, but the start of the journey, to start really thinking about their health in that way. It's just so incredible. And I think one thing that's been so magical about getting to know you, which is so interesting that I've gotten to know you after I wrote the book and after the book came out, because I feel like meeting you is helping me unfold the journey of what the book means and what the next phases of my journey are in a ways I can't even describe. Because, I have to, that's divine timing. I think about you and I'm like, God, I feel like we knew each other in 7th grade, like they can't, but like all time is one moment. And so we are. But, just this idea, it's like 98% of the atoms in our body from today are not going to be there next year. And probably no atoms that were in our body when we were born are here today. So this idea that like we're oneness and everything is connected, like it's not a metaphor. It's not hippie. It's literally truth on the physical, chemical level. And it's so absent from our paradigm of healing, which is this idea that like we're this thing that lives and dies and I'm me and you're you and this is a chair, and it all couldn't be farther from the truth. And so we imagine that we can cut things out or put things in and that is going to fix things. But it doesn't really fix that thing. But the thing that fixes us is, I think, deep meditation on connection and on oneness. And you are the person who's bringing this into a language that we can understand in the modern era. And with your book, which I've spent the past few days reading, and it's like so fun to see right now because I feel like I know you like 10 times better after reading your story, that I'm just so blown away. But just that idea that everything is connected and not just like knowing that on the atomic or physical or spiritual level, but just like sitting with that prayer every single day, like asking God, like, help me understand what that really means. Help me feel what that really means. Help me act in a way that I actually know what that really means, because I think that's the answer to everything. So, but the reason I'm late, and I'm so sorry to be late, is because I was called to be part of a healing circle for a family member who's ill today. And it was so interesting because I felt like there was this like invisible string between both events. I was here with you and I was also there. And the healer said, the reason illness is hard on all of us, the person who's sick in the community, is because we're fearful. But the opposite, and I felt like these words were coming from your mouth through her, but she said the opposite of fear is not security. The opposite of fear is infinite possibility. Like that's words you wrote in your book, And so as opposed to praying for, a certain outcome, it's like you said in your book, if you don't feel comfortable, like really affirming, like affirmations, start with what if. What if we could live a long, healthy life and be on rocking chairs in our old age? What if, and just like letting those what ifs wash over you, a totally different soundtrack than fear. So it was so beautiful. And then another thing that was said just 2 hours ago, probably while everything beautiful was happening here, and I was over in Topanga, said, healing comes from the word whole, linguistically. And to be whole, we have to be authentic. And to be authentic, we have to know our true self, which is 100% connected with everything else in the universe. And if we understood that, and you talk about this so beautifully in your book, we would realize that our authenticity is the fact that we are the stars. We are the supernovas. We are this universe. Again, every atom in our body comes from stardust. So our authentic self is infinite and is the grandest multiverses, no time, And so in healing, the direct path from healing to, infinite possibility, it's just a linear path. Healing, wholeness, authenticity, infinite possibility. So I love you.
Oh my God.
And
So
that's what the book, I didn't even know. I mean, I talk on the edges about this in Good Energy, and I feel like getting to know you has helped me get closer to the target.
Oh my gosh.
Such an unbelievable gift to receive this. It's like unbelievably special, magical. It's like the fireworks at the end of the Disney parade. It was like sitting here. When I first met Deepak Chopra, he said to me, say, I am Cathy Heller. So I said that, and he said, say it again. He said, now just say, I am Cathy. Does that feel different? I said, yeah. He said, which one feels heavier? Like, Cathy Heller. It's like, what? Cathy's a little lighter. He goes, now just say, I am. Say that again. There you are. Right. And that's the part of us that's really healthy too, because that's the part of us that is free from the cortisol drip of the amygdala, the fog, the brain fog, all the stress. I mean, so much of disease comes from inflammation. And I want you to speak to that. First of all, they may or may not know. I mean, many of them probably know. They've heard you on everybody's podcast at this point and everybody's show. But tell them why you even, what was the journey? Like, you went from medical school to now you're, really talking about real medicine. So what was that journey? There's a sequence of events that happened, of course, which is like, I went to medical school and it sort of felt like there was a lot of hypocrisy. It's like, oh, we're dying of all these lifestyle diseases, and yet we're not learning anything about lifestyle, and we're just learning how to drug, and we're sitting in these dark classrooms 8 hours a day, and all the medical students are depressed, and this doesn't seem like it's making any sense. And then go to residency, and no talk of prevention. I trained in head and neck surgery and, 80 hours a week, just cutting things out of people. And I knew that healing on some level was wholeness. And yet all I was doing was cutting things out of people, which seemed strange. And there was no time or incentive or anything for love. And I knew that love had some part of healing. So there were whispers that I knew that the opposite of what those whispers were was what I was doing. And then I got sick, very sick. And, I had IBS and I couldn't literally form, not TMI, but like no solid bowel movement for 2 years. I had horrible cystic acne. I was depressed and anxious. I had chronic neck pain and my hand went numb, and like 27, and just like, I'd grown up in a very spiritual household. And so I knew on some level, again, I didn't have words for it at that point, that like God or something was telling me that I was out of alignment. And I knew it, when I went in to be a doctor, I wasn't doing. And not only that, the system was actually encouraging the opposite. And so I was getting sick. The patients were staying sick. So many 3rd, 4th revision sinus surgeries. And I'm like, what is going on? And I think there was a wake-up call for me with, it was so kind of great that I went into ENT, because it's so, ear, nose, and throat, head and neck surgery, because it's so, every condition in ENT is a condition of chronic inflammation, really. Like, it's itis is the suffix for inflammation in medicine, and it's like sinusitis, laryngitis, thyroiditis, otitis, parotitis, cellulitis. It's all itises, and the main prescriptions that you give are steroids. Steroids suppress the immune system, and, inflammation is the immune system revved up. So I'm like, okay, I like this inflammation doctor, and I don't even understand anything about what inflammation is. It's just the status quo is like, you just accept that inflammation is there, and then you treat it with these hammers. And it's like IV steroids, inhaled steroids, topical steroids, every type of steroid you could imagine. So, but then in sort of my deeper, again, like the quieter whispers, it was like, wait a minute, inflammation is the body revving up, mounting a response to a threat. And ultimately, it's biochemical fear. And instead of, like I would with the child, like helping them have compassion for their fear, I'm like murdering the thing that's protecting them, or trying to protect them from something they're afraid of inside the body. Like, how is this ever going to lead to healing? And it doesn't. And so that led to a journey of ultimately understanding more about my own illness and my patient's illness, and just my personality type is sort of like a very deliberate and kind of dramatic. So I just walked in and like put down my scalpel and told everyone to clap themselves. I'm kidding. Like, but I was like, this is not right. And I had some time of like, hey guys, like, what do you think about this? Like, let's talk about what might be causing our patients to have this like crazy threat response. And there was no space. I have so much compassion because like doctors are working their butts off, but like this is not a part of the conversation. And if you actually step outside anything that's in the guidelines, you're like really at risk for liability. So I have a lot of compassion for doctors, but I was like, this is not working. I have to leave. And so I did. So I put down my scalpel, I quit, and I had no plan. And I just pulled on that thread of like, why are all our bodies so afraid right now? And, you know, it led me to root cause medicine, functional medicine, which ultimately was like, led me to being obsessed with metabolic health, which is what my book is about, which is this concept that basically like the thing that underlies like almost every chronic disease we're facing in the United States today is this concept of metabolic dysfunction, which is a problem in how the body makes energy. So it turns food like glucose to ATP, cellular energy, and underpowered cells throughout the body. Any underpowered cell, a cell that doesn't have the power to do its work is going to send out distress signals to the body that ultimately recruits the immune system. So it's not actually just like the food and the toxins and all the stuff we know is leading to disease in our country. It's that interacting with our cells' ability to make energy, hurting the mitochondria. And then this is leading to underpowered cells. We have 200 cell types all over the body. So underpowered retinal cells, underpowered blood vessel cells, underpowered liver cells. It's all going to look like different things. And they send out distress signals and an immune system comes, and then we get the chronic inflammation. And then we get like, an ENT issue, sinusitis. And then we're like, don't ask any questions about that and just give them a steroid. So that was kind of step one of, I think, my journey, which was metabolic dysfunction as a root cause. And as I've sat in meditation on this concept of metabolism for the past year and a half, 2 years, more like 5 years, because I ended up co-founding a company 5 years ago about metabolism called Levels, which is a continuous glucose monitoring company. So I've been sitting with this question for a long time. And it's moved into more of a spiritual inquiry for me because fundamentally, metabolism is how we make energy in the body. And I could like say that 1,000 times on podcasts, but I didn't really get it. Fundamentally, like our birthright is to transform energy. And what's so crazy is that energy, it's not glucose. It's the solar energy stored in the carbon-carbon bonds of starches. So it's sunlight that's been absorbed by plants, that's transformed into energy and bonds that goes into our dynamic swirling hive of a body. And if that's functional, that solar energy can be unlocked to create healing energy that can let us reach our highest purpose in this lifetime and connect with God and love and hopefully raise the vibration of everything. And to pump this incredible organ of the heart that it has an electromagnetic field that can change everything, and to empower consciousness, which doesn't work on the material level, it works on the quantum level, and so it's infinitely powerful. So is it about metabolism? So all of the biohacks and the food and this and that, like, I think it's just the next evolution is like, this is fundamentally about honoring this miracle that's not even a thing, it's a process. Like our bodies are not a thing, they're actually a process. But working with the environment in such a way that it works in such a way that it maximally transforms energy so that we're not a bottleneck to the cycle of the cosmos flowing through us. And so that with these incredible things like hearts and minds and guts that we have that can tune into energy, we can transform it into something that is beautiful. And something that's so powerful is also like our mitochondria actually emit light. They are photon emitting structures. So humans have bioluminescence. And so it's ultimately about light and it's ultimately about transformation. And that's why we like eat the fiber and like take the post-meal walk. It's not to bring the glucose down. It's to allow us to be like maximal transformers of energy. I told Dr. Cathy this that, I'm going to call you Dr. Cathy, but she ran an event, she's on a stage, sort of. I went to a retreat in Vail, and half of us took psilocybin and half of us didn't. And then they took the blood to see how we did. And those of us on psilocybin which I didn't take, although I was really curious about it. Psilocybin increases your serotonin, which is why your third eye opens, which is why you love light, because your amygdala is like shutting down and you're opening up to really who you are, which is not in separation anymore. You're really in this oneness. And so those who took the psilocybin, their serotonin increased either by 100% or more. And everybody else spent 4 days doing Kundalini breath. And we looked at the blood chemistry and found out that those of us who did Kundalini doubled our serotonin than those who took psilocybin. And then we also looked at the data, which is that your biological signature, when you have that much serotonin flowing through you, you give yourself a biological update. You upgrade everything that's happening on a cellular level. You're restoring the body. So this is, so fascinating, and it's so major that you put this in the conversation, so mainstream now, because she's been on like Rogan and Bill Maher. It's like, it's a really amazing. But you said to me a few weeks ago when we were having tea, you were like, yeah, I think we've actually been at a higher conscious place as a civilization, and we're just going back to that, which as opposed to like, oh, it's this big leap we have to make. It's like, no, it's a returning to like the medicine women that we are. So do you feel like we are on the cusp of seeing a generation that starts to move into wholeness? I choose to believe that. That's the outfit I choose to put on, as you would say in the book. Like, because it's like we either have the option of believing that's happening or it's not. And since what we believe is what becomes our reality, I do make the choice to believe that every day, because it's hard. I mean, everything around us like makes us think maybe that's not happening and like everything's going to shit. But like anything is possible, literally. So I just wonder, I'm like, if every person in the world could hold a vision of like truly an awakening, like it would happen. Yeah. It's actually that simple. If everyone simply committed to awe and to believing in oneness and acting that way and having a constant conversation with God each day, asking for guidance, everything would actually be fixed immediately. And that's possible. Yeah. It's actually free. So yeah, so I do think so. And a question, like when I was reading your book about the sort of what ifs, like, I rail about the internet and technology and stuff like that. It's kind of a problem. It's sort of, I think the real answer is like getting back to nature and like actually learning from nature and acting more like nature. And something that came to me at the prompting of your book yesterday was like, what if the internet was created for a brief moment to be like a quantum field to spread the awakening? What if that's the and it's only like 30 years old. And then what if we all decide to shut it down? Yeah. I don't know. But it's possible. It is kind of like the quantum field, where like a little bit of light can spread instantly. And so can darkness. But I think you said this at Lillian's house, that like light is organized and light can have a direct link. Like the light and coherence comes together. It's focused and powerful. Darkness is disorganized and scattered. Yeah. And so of course there's darkness on the internet, but also there's light. So just things like that, but I think that meditation of how do we sit with both, I believe for a true awakening to happen, we actually do need to sort of pull back from some of the comforts of modernity and actually get back in touch with nature. But I think on the most basic level, especially for women, part of that is simply being outside more, reflecting on nature, which is never hurried and never rushed, and realizing that like the answer is actually all around us. We can literally ask the trees for advice. And I think what they would say is you must rest. You must take time to be still. It's never gonna work because the answers are gonna come in the quiet. And as women and the healers and the creators of the earth, not resting like all plants do in the winter will be the death of the world. And I believe that. So I just say that because we're in a room full of women, but there's just nothing selfish about putting up boundaries to protect your peace and to resting and sleeping and getting the time you need to have quiet, because everything in nature that creates sustainably does do that. And for some reason, in like just a couple generations, we decided we don't need that. And now the world is crumbling. And so I think women are going to heal the world. And I think women who have the strength to know that their rest is a gift to humanity are going to heal and lead the awakening of the world. Yeah, it's magnificent. There really is like a sanctuary within ourselves that is like beckoning us back. And there is really nothing that comes close to the feeling of, it's beyond joy, it's equanimity. There's nothing that comes as close to that really deep feeling of equanimity when you water the garden within yourself deeply. And my friend Kate Northrup says that it's like anyone who's ever worked the land knows that you don't have a harvest every day. You let the land compost, right? And we as women, we have a cycle that we produce this one possibility, this one egg every single month, which means there is a waxing and a waning, and it takes 30 days, right, for us to then produce something that has the potential to create something magnificent once a month. And we live in a culture that wants you to produce every single day. But if you were to rip something out of the land every single day, I mean, taste a tomato that comes out of Bakersfield, it doesn't taste like anything. You have to put so much Paul Newman's dressing on it because it doesn't taste like anything. If you go to Italy and you get a tomato, it's been sitting in the earth and composting, and then there's a harvest when it's time for a harvest. There's so much in it. And what if your mic drop to the world is supposed to be what you sit with and simmer on and marinate? And then when you go to speak, you have something to say. And then when you go to post, you have something to say. Then when you go to create, you have something to say. Maybe your biggest creation, I mean, Dr. Edith Eger, as mentioned earlier, her first book, she wrote at 87. Her second book, she wrote at 91. Where are you rushing to? First, really fill up, sit in it. Find the truth. Find your power. It's your spiritual power, right? But I absolutely just find it just mesmerizing that she went to Stanford Medical School and she can say that oneness is ultimately, that is the medicine, because that's what I was saying about psilocybin. Psilocybin is going to put you into oneness. Serotonin, which you can create yourself without the mushroom, is going to put you into oneness. So when you make your well-being your job, you make yourself healthy. That's it. So if we had to, and we'll sort of wrap up with this because then you guys all buy her book, and she's been on literally everybody's podcast, so you can go hear it. If we had to pick one thing, though, food-wise, to cut out of our diet, is it seed oils or is it sugar? We all want to start with at least one thing, right? We want to leave here with maybe one thing. Which is the one thing that we would say is the biggest killer? At this point, what I would say, which is a different answer than probably what was in the book. So everything in the book, I still totally agree, but it's an evolution. You write a book and then it's like 2 years later. 100%. Actually, I have a question for you on that topic. But what I believe is that the answer is that anything that has pesticides on it. So anything not organic. And the reason for that comes back to oneness, because food is energy and pesticides are a weapon to mass destruction against creation and biodiversity. They're actually responsible for 20% of all suicides on Earth are done from just drinking pesticides. They are meant to kill. And we're spraying 6 billion pounds on our mother, the Earth, every year and destroying the soil microbiome. And I think the thing that my next book will be about, the thing that I'm thinking about so much right now, is that our health is simply a reflection of the Earth's health because of oneness. We literally, again, 98% of the atoms in our body were the Earth, and now they're us, and that's going to happen every year for the rest of our lives. So it's not a metaphor, it's just the reality. And I wrote about this in my newsletter last week, but when you really step back and look at what's happening to human health, I've spent the last several years talking about food, but I'm actually questioning whether it really is even the food. You look at like the number one killer of both men and women in the United States, it's heart disease, which is interesting on two levels, I think. One is that we're obsessed with our rational brain and we've forgotten our heart brain, our heart intelligence, the ultimate power of women. I think our heart intelligence, I think we will look back on everything post Age of Reason in the future with disdain because we've literally shunned the other intelligences in favor of the brain, which actually we need to quiet the brain to hear. That's what meditation is. No, I know it's not about quieting the brain. I know it's about observing what the brain is doing. No, it's quiet. There's no answers in here. But there's no answers. There are no answers in here. And this is our false god is the brain. And, so heart disease. So one, we're dying of heart disease in huge amounts. I think not because in parallel to ignoring our heart intelligence. And then also because heart disease is a circulation issue. And when you look at what we've done to the earth, you look at pictures, just Google trash in rivers, and it's crazy. It's like our oceans are filled with trash, our rivers are filled with trash, we're damming rivers for electricity, blah, blah, blah. And so there's a circulation problem on planet Earth, and there's a circulation problem in our body. And so I could do that for every single disease killing Americans today. Autoimmune disease, we're at war with the planet. Our bodies are at war with ourselves. You look at cancer. I think cancer, I think about landfills. We're producing 100,000 tons of garbage in LA every day. So all of that is to say, when I think about the patches and the GI cancers, the number one cancer going up in young adults now are GI cancers: pancreatic, colon, gastric, microbiome, pesticides, murdering the microbiome of the earth. Our microbiome is murdering our bodies. We're getting GI cancers. So I know that's a circuitous answer to your question about food, but I would say it's not a food. I would say not only moving towards not supporting the industry that is hurting biodiversity on the planet, which is pesticides, but also putting something in, which is finding a way to get closer to the earth, whether that's growing a basil plant in your kitchen, starting a compost heap, or just like anything that allows you to get in touch with that cycle. I think that's probably what I would say, put in. And so, I think a little bit of sugar, a little bit of canola oil, that's probably not going to kill us. But I think getting more in touch with the oneness that is our truth through the way that we eat I think that's going to emerge as something that really helps us all heal. Do you think that if Bobby Kennedy and this administration is able to make some headway and get rid of, let's say, one or two of these things, is our body strong enough to restore? Our body can heal, I think, in a day. Amazing. Our body is desperate to heal every single day. That is the true nature of us, is healing. But I think what's going to be taking away the inputs that are hurting the body and the inputs that are hurting the earth. And I really do hope that policy can help with this. And also, I think that policy not built on a spiritual grounding will fall flat. And so, again, especially as women, as the spiritual keepers of our families and the world, I think it's spreading your book as far and wide as humanly possible, and all of us doing that in our communities, so that is the foundation of the conversation. Tactics on the absence of truth, I don't think are going to work. It has to be truth and then tactics and then transformation. But without the truth level, which is that we are abundance and spiritual beings. So that's my hope, is that somehow that, maybe through Bobby Kennedy, because he's a very spiritual person, permeates the work that's done. I know. By the way, that's what I always used to say to him, like, my knowing is in your spiritual power. Because his spiritual alignment it's so palpable that, to me, that's the most unique thing that he has going. Yeah. Not his Wikipedia encyclopedic brain. And what Casey's saying, which she can really speak to, and the thing is that there's a code. There's a code. And we're talking about the code from two different languages, but really it's the exact same language. I just don't know how to speak hers. We're on about mitochondria and all, but the gist of it is that your identity comes with a cocktail. It's a pharmaceutical drip. And when you walk around with this little identity of your limitations, who you think you are, who you think you're not, what you think you need to achieve, you're literally giving yourself chemistry that's killing you. When you move into your true identity, which is the spark of the oneness, which is the I am, you're giving yourself a different chemistry. You're giving yourself the chemistry of what's beyond the amygdala, what's in this field, that everything, there is an equanimity that's always available. There is a wholeness because it lives in you. It moves through you. You are, the body's a light bulb, your soul is the light, right? And you can move that which is the ultimate current through you, right? And so every day, if you want to give yourself a medicine, you can give it to yourself inside of yourself by selecting who you really are, right? And feeling, what does it feel like to be you, chemistry-wise? How does it feel like in your body when you move into I am consciousness? That's it. And from that place, you'll just walk right into the portal of the mystic. She's literally unbelievably special and magnificent. And I could talk to you forever. Thank you for showing up and being here. She's extraordinary. Go buy her book, Good Energy. You probably already have it. If you don't, buy 2 and give 1 to a friend. Thank you so much to everybody for coming.
Thank you.